Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you the best endgame Ark creatures, so the best creatures just for when you're in the endgame. In at number 10 I have to put the Crystal Wyvern, as they're just such useful creatures all the way through the game, and while some people would put the Wyverns on the list, I find Crystal Wyverns to be vastly superior, considering their taming method is substantially easier than any kind of normal Wyvern. You'll find some people enjoy the thrill, but I'd rather just get an easier tame done, and I prefer the elemental abilities. The Blood Crystal Wyvern is my personal favourite, although the Ember one is very good amongst many people as well. People love that one as well. I've got the Tropical one here because it just looks the best from the B-roll. Come on, it looks the most Crystal Wyvern-y, if that's even a word. They really suit Crystal Isles, but they also really suit my Ark playing, with that passive tame being one which I always enjoy doing, and I just love taming these things. That elemental abilities are so cool, and you get all the abilities that a Wyvern would have, but just at a much easier cost. And then right into the late game I'm using these things, especially because I've got Spire speed leveling. I can really pump the speed in these things, and they travel across the map in just no time at all, and you know, they do pack a punch in the damage department. Next up we've got the Stego, and I never really drop this thing from my side when it comes to my general playing in Ark. I always have one of these things by my side to just use. Generally I love the Stego for all that it offers, because in my opinion it really offers a lot, and it offers a lot for me. I love its berry gathering, and although yes, maybe it can be slow and stamina can be cruel, but once you boost those and you get a nice high level one, which you definitely have by the end game, you're really going to enjoy gathering on this thing. And maybe there are some more efficient mounts out there, but I still will always use my Stego for all this stuff. And you know, they're immune to Microraptors, so you might as well, at least they were in this case. You know, it's a useful thing. Rider protection, actually, it will come in more handy than you may think. And for all you PvP players out there, you've got to put this in the best endgame Ark creatures list, because for a lot of your soaking you're probably going to be using something like a Stego. But even for a PvE players list, I definitely do need to put the Stego here. I think it is very, very well deserving of this spot. Coming up next, we have got the Astrodelphis or the Tropignators. Both of them suit me very well, although I'm more of an Astrodelphis kind of guy because I just think they're cooler. Although when I'm going on more of the primitive rampage, then I'll use a Tropignators, because sometimes I just completely eliminate tech from my playing, because it's not my favourite thing out there. Actually, I'm not really very pro tech, as it seems. I'm quite old fashioned in my ways of Ark, but I still really do love these creatures, and right into the end game I use them. Even without any sort of speed leveling, you can get insane speed out of a creature like this, which most people will be, considering most people don't have fire speed leveling on, which is again sort of a shame, I think, because I think speed leveling is good. Maybe put a cap on it at like the 150 mark or 135 mark, but still add a little bit of lenience there, wildcard, because everything at base speed can just be a little bit frustrating for me, and that's why I use flyer speed leveling. But these things have plenty enough of that, and they still can be quite hefty with their attacks, and they're not too difficult to tame actually. You would think of them to be more expensive to tame than they actually are, but trust me, on Gen 2 you're going to have no issues with the expenses. At number 7 we've got the Rhinogonatha, and although I don't use it an awful lot in the endgame, I do think it deserves to be here, as I know a lot of you out there are using this in your end game playing, and I think it sort of does just need to be here, you know. The Rhinogonatha is one of those creatures which can carry a heck of a lot of creatures around. I know with cryopods it's not really strictly useful in any sense, but still it's just crazy that it can do that, and it does a hefty amount of damage too, which, you know, is something which I thoroughly enjoy in a late game creature. You're going to want to be dealing all of that damage. It is simply a necessity at this point, especially for a sort of combat orientated mount. It just simply needs to happen and needs to be done. There's no way around it really. You just want a tame that deals tons of damage. It's also very fast too, and can pretty much suit all of your metal run it needs to, and you should have no issues with anything like that of the sort. They really are great when it comes to it, and they did rip off the tame method of the creature which is next up on the list, so let's just get straight to that one. Yes, as I hinted, we have got the Reaper in the spot next, in at number 6 spot actually, and this is just such a great game, a great endgame tame for me. Like, it's sort of the epitome on Av, but it's not for every map, so that's why it's been pushed back so much. Sends you to tame one, get a Reaper Queen to below 1000 health, and then it will impregnate you, get loads of XP, and boom, you got yourself your Reaper baby born with 100% effectiveness. Like that, you might want to Reaper Pheromone Gland so it doesn't kill you as well. You might want to pay attention to that. The Rhino doesn't do that when it's born, you can just simply claim it, and also you need resources rather than XP to get 100% effectiveness. It also impregnates your dino and not you. It's got a short craving timer window, which is where you're going to give it those resources. Personally, I prefer the Reaper's way of doing it. And actually, if you want an easy Reaper tame, go on to Gen 2. Raj Kark's got a great guide for it, so I would definitely recommend that you check that out, because I think that is quite a useful resource for you players out there. I do definitely enjoy that method occasionally, but I do like the thrill of going through all the effort on Av as well. It just is so great considering how much damage it deals and the mobility you get. Well, yes, I would prefer the torpor tail of the Reaper Queen. On the Reaper Kings, you simply do not get that. If you haven't noticed already, this is actually a Reaper Queen, not a Reaper King. It was just easier to force tame. In number 5, I've decided to put the Shadowmane, as this is one of those creatures where it's just so jam-packed full of abilities, it deserves to be here. It sort of might clash with the number 3 spot for me, but that has been in the game for such a while, I'll let it rest until I actually talk about it, and I'll give my reasons. The Shadowmane is such a small yet neat carnivore, requiring no saddle and actually having natural armor, which is quite a nice ability for a creature like this to actually have. These things can jump to incredible heights and also have the bleed and hydration buff. Same as the Crystal Wyvern, not with the bleed, but they do have the hydration buff. Not really useful on a flyer, but I guess it's there. You know, you might as well use it from time to time. Dip your wings in that water and get a little bit of a buff. And as you probably could tell already, these Shadowmanes are actually good swimmers. The only main downside is their taming method is absolutely awful, and I despise it with all of my emotions, but I won't get into that because that demotes these creatures, and in the late game that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah, it'll take some time, but it'll definitely be doable and it's well worth it. Continuing on though, we have got the Desmodus, and this is one of those creatures where I really love them for taming the Bloodstalker. It's not making the list, as I don't think many other people would be using the Bloodstalker late game, but it gets an honorable mention here because I do definitely use it in my late game playing, which is pretty much all the playing I'm doing at the moment because I haven't really started anything new in quite a while. So yeah, good for me I guess, but I feel like it simply sort of doesn't deserve to be on this as a way. I really love it as underwater traveling mount and for all of that, but this creature does help me to get it, and I feel like it represents it still quite well. Having the glide ability and being able to grapple onto walls, vertical surfaces and ceilings, this thing really does work in the mobility aspect. And it can make Sanguine Elixir, which is a cheat for all of my taming needs, and it's why it really does need to be here. I love doing tames with this creature because they just go by so much quicker, and the blood bag farms, meaning it's great for taming the Bloodstalker as well, and more Desmoduses because they do share the exact same taming method if you didn't know that already. They can pick players off mounts too in PvP scenarios and even go invisible in the nighttime. At number 3 we have got the Rex, and this is sort of where you might have a little bit of debates, but I feel like for the end game, for loads of those bosses, the Rex is simply one of those options along with the UT. I'm putting that as an honorable mention here, so don't say I didn't put the UT in the list because it is going in the spot with the Rex as well, because I feel like they do go very well together. But they've been in the game for so long, and they've probably, especially if you've played for a while, carried you through a lot of the fights that you would have been doing, so I think they really do deserve to be on the list. It would simply be a disservice to the Rex because it has served us for so long, and we've had so many good times with this creature. At least I have, and I've done a lot with this creature which I simply couldn't have done without it, and it deserves to be a great endgame Ark creature and one of the best, which is why I'm putting it in at number 3 spot, as Ark would simply not be the same without the Rex. No matter how much you use it, the game that still sort of resides on this creature in a way. A dinosaur game without the T-Rex is no longer a really cool dinosaur game, and that's sort of how they all work to an extent, but it really does have a very useful role, and considering they're so easy to tame on ASA, you might as well just go and get one of these things and you shouldn't have too much issue whatsoever. In number 2 we've got the Maywing. This is the epitome of travel for me. Nothing really can beat it, and I used it right the way through the game, although it said it was only unlocked at level 18. You know, it's sort of insane in a way, to be honest, when you look at that. Like, genuinely crazy. But I love this creature for all the attributes that it actually does show. It's a very fast and effective travel mount, being like the fastest in the game really. You can't beat the Maywing, and that's with no speed levels at all. I simply don't need 2 level speed on this thing, even though I still do, because, you know, you might as well, especially if you've got speed leveling. So I still ramp it up to maybe a good 150%. This has got no added extra speed on it, just to let you know. This is actually the default speed of the thing, and it's crazy how fast these things go. For you breeders out there as well, sounds a little bit sus in a sense of context. You ever thought of that actually, when like you're talking about a game and then just someone hears you out of context talking about the game? Some of the things you'll say, man, it's a little bit crazy. But yeah, for breeders out there, they act as the portable feeding trough. With the use of the Gigantoraptor as well, they can be quite an effective duo. You can carry 4 babies in its saddle too, even steal enemy baby creatures. They're pretty effective swimmers too. They can skate along the top as well, and they gather berries too. And another one is the Deinonychus. This really just carries my Ark playing, and I'm sorry if you watch a lot of my videos, you're going to see this thing appearing in the #1 spot quite a lot, and it's staying at the #1 spot in this list as well. They are just so great for boss fights. I really can't not use these things. They also take no full damage too. I know it's such a minor thing, but it really does add a lot of fluidity into my playing when a creature doesn't take full damage. And you can see, you can grapple onto big creatures and just absolutely rip them to shreds. You've got the bleed ability on top of that as well. Not the bleed ability, the pack ability on top of the bleed ability, which just provides for insane damage. You can decimate bosses in less than a minute. All of the island ones at least. Maybe not the dragon, considering it flies around, but still, you'd probably be using Derries for that if you want to be more on the cautious side. But you can easily do it with Dines, and I don't really use Derries for it. I use Dines. The only boss fight I don't actually use these things for is the Moda, because come on, you know, they're not great at swimming, and that is their only real downside. That's sort of where the Shadowmane excels more as a boss creature. But for the Moda, I'll use probably Moses or something like that. Just some general Ark underwater creatures. I might use Megalodons as well, depends how I'm feeling on the day. They also are really effective climbing mounts, the Deinonychus. Like, they are insane for doing all of that parkour around the map. They sort of are like the rock drake in that sense, although they can't go upside down. And on top of this too, their tame method is relatively easy. You might as well just get one. Trust me, you are going to absolutely love these things. The top 10 most OG Ark tames. In at number 10, we have got the Moser, and this creature is here for many reasons. Namely that it kind of changed the shape of the ocean biome back in those early stages of Ark, as I'm pretty confident this wasn't really hugely accessible in the early stages of the game. At least I didn't really get into it until like 2016, but I'm not sure if they're around on launch or not. I only really remember the Megalodons as sea creatures. I might again just be slightly wrong on those facts, but either way, this creature was very influential. It's very big, and you have a lot of memories with this creature. And obviously with that platform saddle as well, it added something new and innovative. I know the Plesiosaur did have that as well. It was actually quite a big thing when that creature came out as well, so I guess it's of a similar era to that, and it just really changed the ocean biome in a way. And nowadays it is definitely quite outdated, but back then it was such a cool creature, and I still have a memory of it, and it really is one of the OGs. Next up, we have got the Castoroides, and this creature is here because when it came out, I just used this thing so much, and with that Smithy as its platform saddle, like, I just really liked that feature. It seems really cool, new and innovative to me. Not sure if the RG did have it at the time, but this definitely did have it back when it released. They also could swim pretty fast as well, and although I didn't spend too much time in the water back then in those days, I still did enjoy going around and just exploring the underwater aspects of the game occasionally, and it was just nice to have a speedy-ish way of travel as well. And obviously that wood gathering was really on point, and also just a general travel mount across the map as well. I did use this for, and for storage as well, as their weight was pretty good. I just really liked this creature as well, just to generally like have it, because I tended to collect a lot of creatures back then, and whenever a new one came out I would always have to tame that. You can't say this is on a similar level to the Procoptodon and that sort of OG nostalgia from that kind of creature. So like, yeah, I have so many nice fond memories of this creature, and for me it's one of the OGs. It's a bit forgotten about nowadays, but it definitely does deserve some attention, as you can get quite a significant amount of use out of something like this. Next up, we have got the Stegosaurus, and I remember when I first tamed one of these things, and it took me over 2 hours back then, once obviously it had been knocked out. So, you know, it really did take quite a bit of time back in the days, but that was mainly just because the rates were lower, and I think the game did have quite a drastic change when the UI update and all of that happened in terms of rates. So, you know, the game has just become a lot easier since then, but that was ages ago, and obviously back in these times that was before the UI update. Also, just to mention, do you prefer the new UI or the old UI? Because I'm not talking about ASA UI, by the way, I'm just talking about Ark UI versus like 2016, 2015, 2017 Ark UI. Like, that was actually still in SOTF until like late 2022, I think, when SOTF obviously got the update. So, you know, a lot of people probably would have experienced that UI at some point, but I just want to know your opinions on it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? There are some things which I do think are really nostalgic about it, and you know, that kind of does go for most things, but largely I'd say the new UI is better. And also, if you haven't realised already, the Stego has had significant amounts of TLC, because back then it was only really a berry gatherer, and yes, you could use it for doing all kinds of tanking. It's now an even better tank with those plate modes, obviously, but back then it didn't have it. But still, it's so nice to see that Wildcard did give it some love with the TLC update, and it's revitalized this creature even more, as it is definitely a staple as one of those OGs, and you really can't forget the Stego when talking about general things in Ark. It just needs to be in every conversation with OG Ark creatures, and that is why I've put it on the list. Next up, we have got the UT, and I have just such fond memories of this creature. I had to put it here on this list, and I didn't really use it for bosses too much back in the day with the Broodmother, before obviously its arena existed. You just fight it there on the Obelisk Terminal. But then when I kind of found out about these creatures and just started using them more, I really grew a lot of love for this creature, and still to these days I really do just like basically have to tame a UT. It's almost like just an impulse thing. It's like impulse buying stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you have to buy that. It's not like, obviously, it's just, oh, you got to buy that because it's new and fresh. So I guess impulse buying maybe isn't the best way of saying it, but impulsive thoughts in a way. Like, you just, oh, first thing, yeah, I have to get a UT. Obviously, it's not going to be the first thing you're doing, but you know, it's just, it's widened my brain like some other creatures as well, which are later on this list as well, and they just pretty much have to qualify as an OG tame. Crame? What is a crame? Comment that down below. What do you think a crame is? Because I have no idea. My brain is all with imagining and creating words today. But yes, definitely does classify as an OG tame if it is that memorable to me, and obviously it has been in Ark for an absolute while, so you know, it would make sense why it is definitely one of those OGs, and I really do think still to this day very useful creature, and back then very useful as well. Next up, we have got the Megalodon, and this is kind of all I remember of the ocean biome really in those early stages of the Ark game. I'd get myself a Megalodon and just get out there and do some general ocean exploring. I can't remember if silica poles were even a thing back then. I'm not really sure, but it's probably muddle up of memories on all things. Actually, comment that down below. Were silica poles around in 2015? Because at this point, when going through things, like we are like eight years, isn't it now? Something like that. It's more than 8, isn't it? We're in 2024. Not quite 8. It will be 9 years in June. It's been a long time, so my brain's a bit muddled up. You can probably tell by the it's the OG though. Like, it's the Megalodon. Everyone knows what the Megalodon is. It's that big shark, and to have it in a dinosaur game makes sense. Everyone just kind of knows what it is. Also had received a TLC update as well since its release, so it's nice to see that Wildcard has shown this creature some love as well, and in my opinion it's surprisingly underrated nowadays. And there's an X variant on Gen 1, so if you have Gen 1, definitely recommend taming Megalodon there. Don't know why I said definitely twice, but you know, intensify the intensifier, as they say. In at number 5, we have got the Baryonyx, and this creature is here because I just remember doing caving and these things back in the day. Obviously, they weren't the oldest creature in the book in terms of Ark stuff. I'm pretty sure they came around a lot later when the Swamp Biome and Redwoods Biome were introduced, but I still have really strong, kind memories with these creatures, and to this day, they're pretty much the only creature I use for caving. I know there are probably some better options out there, like the Shadow Mane, or quite a lot of people did use Sabres. I actually did use Sabres quite a lot. Very nice OG creature. Not on this list, but you know, give it a quick mention if you were thinking Sabres. I've given the Sabre a brief mention. You can consider the Thyla as well, although I don't really have many OG memories with that creature. I do more so with the Baryonyx, which is obviously why the Baryonyx is on the list at this spot. But it's just, you know, so many fond memories with this creature. Just used it so much, not just for caving but for general travel. And not sure if they did have that spin ability when they were first introduced, because I don't really remember using all too much of it. But I'm also not really sure if they even would have got any kind of TLC, but they might have at some point. Again, not really sure. Comment that down below. My knowledge is really failing me. I should do an update at some point. It's like I'm giving you information on these creatures and I don't really have much information myself when going back this far. Really should have done a bit more research. Now, when the Quetz was introduced, which I'm confident is 2016, definitely not any later, and obviously definitely not any earlier, so I guess it kind of just has to be 2016. It really did change up the game for Ark, like the fact you could get a platform saddle on a flying thing, and at that point flyer speed hadn't been nerfed yet, and I think they nerfed some other things as well, not just speed. I think they nerfed damage or something like that as well. Something happened at a point as well when everything got nerfed, but these were out, I'm pretty sure, pretty confident they were out before flyer speed leveling was obviously just not a thing anymore, and you could get some ripping fast Quetzals with some really cool bases on the back of them, and that would just be your way of cruising around the world. Again, such a game changer. It gave you a new perspective, and taming these things was an absolute pain back then, especially if you were doing it solo. But if you did have some friends, I guess it wasn't the worst thing, and if you were doing it solo, you could always use the RG and Pulmonoscorpius method, and if you just knew how to do it and you didn't really mess it up, then that was a surefire way to tame yourself a Quetzal. In at number 3, we got the Giga, or the Tiny Tim, whatever you want to call it. If you get the reference, put that down in the comments below on what the video was. Rest in peace, that series ended, I think, 1 or 2 episodes later, pretty much just without warning. If only we could have got more of that series. But you know, that is just how the YouTuber tends to work for that channel. You know, they don't really finish series, but they've said that they will more now. I don't know why I'm talking about that so much. Either way, let's just talk about the actual creature in hand, which is the Giga. And when the Giga hit the scene in 2016, again 2016 like the Quetzal, I think it was after. It may have been before as well, but I'm pretty confident after the Quetzal this thing dropped, and it was insane that we had this thing because it was just so big, and again it gave a new dimension to the world of Ark. And obviously the reason why it's not higher is because 2016, you know, it did come a lot later on in all of that, and this creature just, you know, it was so influential, but sadly obviously it basically just came a year too late to really make it into the top 2 spots for the OG Ark tames. But it really did make such a big difference, and with all its abilities, even that Rage Meter was seen really cool. It does definitely make it into the top 3. Really is a really cool OG creature. Now, from OG creatures and like pure nostalgia and all of that, I was tempted to put the Carno in at number 1, but for the sanity of all of you viewers out there, I did not do it, because I obviously, not everyone is a Carno addict like I am, and it's kind of like drugs for this thing. For me, I'm just like, this is just like the most OG creature in a way. But obviously, I put a different creature in at number 1 to savour you from all those bad comments, even though there probably still is going to be a little bit of hate from this. Fine, you know, you might not really like the Carno, but this is my list and not your list. You're free to agree, you're free to disagree. I always say that. I don't really mind on what your opinions are, and I think that all of them are really valid. Just want to make that clear. I know YouTubers say it all the time, but you know, I follow the same kind of policy. Either way, with this creature, I was using it pretty much from day 1. Obviously not from day 1, because the rates were so low back then. You would never be able to get a Carno then. But like, it was one of the first carnivals I got. I got Raptors first, but really not a very memorable creature to me. Didn't really like them that much. When I got my hands on a Carno, didn't even have the saddle, just had it following around. And obviously aimed at Carney Dave because of the same YouTuber with the Tiny Tim thing. So, you know, thanks for all of the memories. Just adds even more to the OG-ness. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If not, this is going to sound all really confusing to you, and I'm sorry for that, but for all the people that do get it, they will definitely be enjoying this. Either way, talking about the Kano as well, this did get a TLC, which obviously it didn't have before, so now it has the bleed ability, which is a nice really thing to have. Shows wildcard did actually show some support for this creature. Just really like it. It's small, it's agile, it's got that nostalgia factor for me. Really is an OG. You can get so much use out of it, at least I can. Some people probably maybe won't agree with that because they'll prefer creatures like Aloes, and I do agree, they're really great, just I am a bit of a Kano addict. And in at number 1, we have got the RG, and this creature is here just because it is so memorable for its old model and also just for its use. Obviously now it's got its new model, and I'm pretty sure it had a lot of TLC done to it as well with that new ability or new abilities. I'm not actually sure if it did have the regen buff, but it does have the regen buff now, where you kill something and you eat the dead corpse and then boom, you've got that regen. And also this adult acts as a portable smithy as well. Not really sure if they had that back in the day, but obviously they do now, and they can carry an extra small creature in their mouth as well, which they definitely didn't have back in the day. That was not a thing she could do on the RG, at least I'm pretty confident. Really hope that I haven't got that wrong. But obviously they could pick up things in just the general claw position, and I think the way they pick up creatures is different on the new model to the old model, because like they used one arm there seemingly on the new model. I think on the old one it was both, because it kind of like grabbed around the shoulders. Again, the old RG model was pretty much just like a bird, but just at the back it was like a square with a couple of feathers, and those feather textures, man, brings a lot of nostalgia, but also brings a lot of maybe some off-brand RG models. You know, if it was still an Ark today, that would be a little bit concerning for the developers. I'd be like, why have you not updated this yet? Still, the nostalgia factor's there for it, obviously, and it's an insane resource gatherer and such a useful creature. It's got weight reduction on things like metal, crystal, and obsidian, and as a must-have, definitely is the OG. So, thank you to my wonderful patrons Ekaterina Puchkova, Karina Thorne, Dominic Masajewski, and Ethan Tapia, who have all supported me through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. If you want to join this list, then go join Patreon or YouTube members, but thanks to all of these guys.